Perloff, I defy you to find another team that has a better offseason than the Jets. The preseason is now over. You're going through cut-down day, which can be emotional for a lot of players who are getting cut and rosters are getting trimmed. But unequivocally, the Jets have had the best preseason, the best offseason, the best everything before the season kicks off 9 days from now.
Okay, I get this is 100% about Aaron Rodgers, right?
No, there's more than just Aaron
But
Rodgers.
every other move besides Aaron Rodgers is not that great. So I feel like the PFF's, Pro Football Focus, will give the Jets kind of a low grade because the Rodgers move is great, obviously, but it's high risk and they gave up a lot. After that, though, what are these moves that are good?
You know what's high risk? Playing Zach Wilson. That would have been high risk to everyone who wanted to keep a job at the Jets for the next 6 months.
But they could have gotten a quarterback elsewhere. I'm just saying, look at these they brought in a bunch of old guys. Like Randall Cobb, Mecole Hardman, Alan Lazard. These are not great moves on there. They're kind of risky veteran moves. I don't think you're just getting it for Rodgers. And then they drafted a guy they clearly didn't want to draft. They wanted the tackle, even though they say they didn't. So I don't know. Like, other than Rodgers, what is the move?
They wanted depth pieces behind Garrett Wilson, who could become is already a really great wide receiver, could become one of the best in the NFL this year if the Rodgers connection is real. They already had a good defense, and so going up from that, I mean, they have completely changed their outlook, going from a team that won 7 games last year to a legit Super Bowl contender. Not, a nice story that ended the season on a high note, and now Detroit Lions, Pittsburgh Steelers, okay, now we're expecting things. This is a legit Super Bowl contender because of Rodgers. I don't understand the Rodgers high-risk thing. Like,
well, you're bringing in a 40-year-old quarterback. If this fails, then where are you left as a franchise?
Well, you weren't going anywhere with Zach Wilson, so you'd have the exact same question to ask yourself, and you are going to be starting over again anyway. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I can't find another team who increased their fortunes, who changed their perception more than the Jets. People are going to hate it. People in Wisconsin, are going to hate hearing about Aaron Rodgers all the time. I know people are sick of the hype, and the season hasn't even started. But just from a football perspective, they have increased their fortunes and bettered themselves better than anybody this offseason.
Well, I think there are a few teams that have seen their odds jump. I think the number one team, though, is the Pittsburgh Steelers for a few reasons. One, I think it's just like the Jets. Some guys are getting older. By the way, you can't count Garrett Wilson getting older as part of a great offseason, even though that's such a big deal. But I think the Steelers, basically everything they had wrong with their team, they immediately addressed and got better. And I like sort of this quiet, steady improvement in the offseason instead of the big dramatic offseason. It worked once with Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, but generally...
And with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, but nobody gave the Rams. Yeah, the Rams, that was a very complicated. It wasn't just because of Stafford. They had been building a lot of things over the last 4 years before that. But look at what the Steelers did. They strengthened their offensive line, got Isaac Seumalo, who's going to be really good. They drafted a tackle. Okay. I don't think he's going to really make an impact now, Broderick Jones. But
he's not starting right now. But the other guy's a guard. Okay.
Yeah, well, which is a big deal now. Guards are a much bigger deal. But they got these quarterbacks. They signed Patrick Peterson and drafted Joey Porter Jr., who looks like he's going to be good. They got a linebacker, Cole Holcomb. The way that team is, when T.J. Watt's on the field, the quarterback has to get rid of the ball. You're going to see those cornerbacks just feast on bad passes everywhere. And I think that's why everybody's high on them, because I don't know, they just seem like they're making all the right moves to complement Kenny Pickett Jr.
I'm just going to say that Perloff is somebody, and I don't want to speak out of turn here, but you think that when a guy turns 30, his career is over.
Well, what position?
Okay, well, running backs, you say what, 27? Wide receivers, 30?
26.
Okay, sorry. 26.
Except for Derrick Henry.
He was ageless. 26 for running backs.
Wide receiver, 30, yep.
What do you think for corner?
Well, I think...
Not for the sake of this argument.
Yeah. No, I think that I'm going to ignore my previous advice. Listen,
Patrick Peterson's 33. I'm just going to say
I'm not in love with Patrick Peterson.
Okay, and Cam Sutton's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like the Steelers... First of all, I'm looking at all these lists. I looked at 10 lists for this, and everyone has the Steelers at the top.
Okay, well, just because groupthink is not a good thing.
Yeah, but winning the March press conference is not a good thing either. That's exactly what the Jets did. They feel like last year's Broncos. They feel exactly like last year's Broncos.
Here's how they're not. When you had a motivated Aaron Rodgers after the Packers originally took Jordan Love in the 2020 draft in the first round, what did Rodgers go on to do?
win the NFC North, the crappy NFC North, and flame out on the playoffs like he does every year?
Back-to-back MVPs. I thought you were going to say that. 2 MVPs, rather. 2 MVPs after Jordan Love gets drafted. This is a guy who changes with a chip on his shoulder. That's not a knock on him. It's the reality. We've seen it happen. Now he's got the ultimate chip. Look how he's come into New York. This motivated, kumbaya, everybody on the same page, caring about guys, also holding them accountable, being present. I mean, all these things that were criticisms of him at the end of his Packers tenure, he's now completely flipped. He's so bought in, and I think partially it's to rub it in the Packers' faces.
I can't believe you buy all that crap. I mean, that is such a 2-month-long series of garbage. All that. Who
you think
cares
none of
about
it's true?
I'm an analytic guy. I don't want to hear kumbaya. I don't care what he says in the press conference.
No.
Because it doesn't mean anything.
Here's the thing. He's actually putting in the work with these young guys to try to get them ready. That was the criticism at the end in the Packers, right? He just didn't care to show up to OTAs and all that stuff. He felt like, hey, you go learn the offense, and once you get a handle on it, then I'll come in as the PhD level and and we'll all be on the same page. Now he's in there getting his hands dirty, actually helping get these guys and bring them all together with Nathaniel Hackett. So I'm not just buying something he's saying in a press conference. I'm watching what they're doing on the field, or I think I am.
No, you're not.
He's out there at practice
every
day. You're
watching Hard Knocks, which is a publicity stunt.
Well, it is for every team.
And a good one at that.
Yeah, and you're watching press conferences, which are a publicity stunt. And, yeah, by the way, I kind of agree that all of these good things are going to happen to the Jets. But just because those things are – this is what an off-season storyline is. And how many times do we say you don't win a Super Bowl in April and May and June, or even in August or July? You win it in February. That is factually a fact.
Yes, it is factually a fact. Thank you, Dartmouth.
Except when the Super Bowl used to be in January, and then you won the Super Bowl in January.
I know, but I think a lot of why you are saying the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking great to you and why you think they've had the best offseason is a couple things. Because of how they finished last year and because of the reputation and then what you've seen in preseason.
Yes.
Okay, so those 3 things are kind of flimsy as well. Not the reputation. That's real. They're a solid franchise. They're one of the marquee franchises in the league. But what you saw last year, every season's different. And then what you're seeing in the preseason, I can show you a million good passes and bad passes from the preseason. That does not mean when you get to the season, all of a sudden it's going to be smooth sailing.
Okay. The thing about Aaron Rodgers is, yes, you can't say, in my mind, you can't say they won the offseason because there were many other teams that could have looked at Aaron Rodgers, and they were not interested. Yeah. So there's got to be a reason because this is a risk. They're bringing in a 40-year-old quarterback. It worked once with Tom Brady. Stafford was younger, but there's a lot of, there's some downside here. It might not work, and you might be sort of out to sea as a franchise. And last year, I would say,
he took a $35 million pay cut. Out to see what? The draft picks?
They have nothing. Honestly, I would say last year, except for quarterback, everything was trending up. I mean, there would have been other solutions to quarterback. It's not like Aaron Rodgers was the only thing they could do.
Jimmy G? What are you doing?
You could have drafted a guy. You could have done a lot of things.
No, this organization could not draft another guy. You whiffed on Zach Wilson at 2 overall. You got to take a break. You got to sit the next couple plays out. So you might have
a short-term win here, but that's not – I mean, listen, you obviously have been demonized by the Patriots your whole life.
Yeah.
It's not a one-year thing. Great off seasons build champions. This is sort of feels like this is a 1 or 2 year risk.
Yeah. I don't see it as a risk because where were the Jets going? They have a team that was ready to take the next step. Last year, the defense took a step forward, and it was just the offense was really bad because the quarterback play was so bad. Garrett Wilson still had over 1,000 yards receiving with 4 different crappy quarterbacks.
Well, they were obviously going to get some veteran quarterback or get a veteran quarterback and draft somebody. They were lucky to get Rodgers, and Rodgers is motivated. All that's true. There's no guarantee this works out great. Look at last time Favre came. You might have thought a lot of these same things.
Yeah, well, and they were playing well until he got hurt, and that was a good team that Favre came on to.
Okay.
They were okay until he got hurt, and then it went off the rails. Listen, if Rodgers gets hurt, yes, there's nothing I can do about that. But if you're talking about other options in terms of veteran quarterbacks that were out there.
Could have gotten Carson Wentz.
Yeah, phenomenal. From where? The gutter? Carson Wentz still doesn't have a team.
I was joking.
We destroyed his poster. and there's been no Carson's Corner to speak of. If you're watching the show, by the way, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio.
I mean, there is one common factor.
What's that?
With the Broncos. They are this year's Broncos in the sense that
it's funny we're not talking about...
brought your favorite coach, Nathaniel Hackett, with them.
I know. Well, as long as he's not making calls on whether to go for it or kick a field goal, we're okay.
I've seen it so many times. Last year was a great example. We get so hyped up for all these offseason changes, and then something completely unpredictable happens.
I think it's interesting that you and I did not even consider the Broncos when talking about who has had the best offseason, because you could make a case with Sean Payton being a massive upgrade at coach that they would be the team that had the best offseason. And they spent over $200 million in free agency.
Yeah, but already the same thing that happened last year is happening to them again. People are getting hurt. Tim Patrick out, Jerry Jeudy out maybe half the season. This was bad last year, and you're already seeing signs that I think it's going to be very hard to overcome this. And that's just the beginning. I feel by week 5, that whole team's going to be on IR.
Man, I would love to... we're big on bets on this show and future bets. Like, in 5 years, first of all, do you think Russell Wilson is starting every game this year? If he's healthy?
Yes. That's a great question. It's a great question.
And then secondly, in 3 years, are the coach and quarterback combo still together?
Oh, no way.
Shot, right?
Sean Payton will be there, I think. It's a great situation. They have more money than anywhere. It's an amazing city. He's going to build something. He was at New Orleans forever. I think this is a great long-term move. I think Payton's a great coach, but this year is going to be tough. First of all, the AFC is so ridiculously loaded. I think Payton's fine. I think it's a great spot. It's a great facility.
Well, they traded first-round picks for him, so...
Yeah. It's a great facility. I think they're going to be all in. Just you got to give them some time. No, I agree with... I think what you're saying is it doesn't look like Russell Wilson and Sean Payton are a long-term marriage.
I don't get those vibes. Maybe it's not starting out with the warm and fuzzies. Yeah, Samter.
That's jumped into a conclusion before the season even starts, but we just don't know. Their backup is Jarrett Stidham, though, so I don't think
backup for now. They love them some Jarrett Stidham.
They must, I guess, but it's not like Jarrett Stidham is like the future quarterback. He's a fine backup to have there. But
he played well for the Raiders. They traded for him, or signed him on the first day of free agency.
Yeah. If you missed the Jarrett Stidham hype train, there, our buddy Mike Lombardi, basically guarantees Stidham will have that job halfway through the season. I swear, don't laugh. He's like, Stidham is a better quarterback right now.
Are we making another bet? Jarrett Stidham will be starting without Russell. Russell Wilson will get benched for Jarrett Stidham this year.
I'm not doing that bet. I'm just asking the questions over here, okay? I'm asking the questions about why is there not any positivity around the Broncos right now, considering they made also appreciable upgrades this year, starting with the head coach. And we're not talking about it. So.
You guys know my Jarrett Stidham story, right?
You got a Stidham story?
Oh, my God.
Wait,
you guys do not know this whole story?
I know. No. This is an emotional day for Perloff because there's a lot of cuts going on.
Yeah, Nathan Peterman got cut, my guy. Jarrett Stidham, you know the story. I've told you this. I went down to do a story on Texas high school football, and it was
for Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, it was a 3,000-word story. The first 2,000 were on Jarrett Stidham, who was a junior, and was pretty much the number one recruit. And the second...
What high school in Texas?
Jarrett Stidham went to Stephenville, which is his famous country Texas quarterback machine. Jevin Sneed went there.
Is it East Texas or West Texas?
It's South Texas.
Oh, okay.
It's near Dallas.
Got it.
And then there was this other, it was a 7-on-7 tournament. There was other quarterback who everyone was like, he's really, really good, but he's not going to play football. He's going to play baseball like his dad.
Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
Words 2,000 to 3,000 were about Patrick Mahomes. Mark Moravec, SI football editor, cut the Mahomes part.
No!
Mark calls me last year. He goes, hey, Andrew, I was looking at the weirdest thing. In the year 2014, we had a photographer following Patrick Mahomes around all day. Did you know we had these old photos? I'm like, yeah, you cut all my Patrick Mahomes stuff.
Oh, my goodness. So the Jarrett Stidham stuff all remained in the SI article, and all the Mahomes stuff got cut.
It was an article about how there's a lot of young Texas quarterbacks coming up at the time, and Stidham was my guy. Stidham has this great backstory. He's a really interesting guy. He was going to go, I forget what, he was going to go to Tech, and then he went to Baylor. Long story short, Mahomes, everyone there is like, yeah, he's great, but he's definitely playing baseball.
Yeah, they were all really wrong.
Yeah, you watch him play, and he kind of looks like a baseball player. You don't remember his dad. You're a Mets fan, right?
Yeah, I do remember his dad.
Was his dad good?
Mahomes. He was a relief pitcher. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm still mad at SI for that because I could have been the first one in on Patrick Mahomes.
You're lucky that Patrick Mahomes didn't hold that against SI. Because sometimes people get prickly about that.
No, are you kidding me? I saw him 2 years ago at the Super Bowl. I said, "Do you remember that?" He's like, "I have no memory of you doing that at all."
Okay. He's had a few profiles written on.
And those 1,000 words on Patrick Mahomes were about this guy is going to be the future star if he decides to play football. He's going to be the best quarterback I've ever seen. I'm sure you saw it back then.
Yeah, no, I did not write that either. I'm like, yeah, but I do remember it was a 7-on-7 thing. And Patrick Mahomes, the 7-on-7 field. I don't even know how long it is. It might be 70 yards. He was at the back of one end zone and threw it to the other end zone. I was like, are you supposed to be able to do that? Like, Jarrett Stidham's a high recruit. He can't do that. And everyone's like, Mahomes was super polite. All Texas kids are polite, but he was the most polite kid. He's like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm like, are you going to keep calling me sir?
Yeah, it's like nobody calls Perloff sir.
Yeah.
Not even people are like paid to do so. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227.
Yes, sir.